everyone's different, and what works for one doesn't work for another, and the fact that people don't understand it, well, that's their problem. It's not your problem, it's not your child's problem.
Autism is a lifelong condition that affects how a person communicates and relates to the world around them.
Because it's not like a wheelchair, is it? It's not like if someone has a wheelchair you can understand why they can't walk.
Currently, there are over 500,000 people diagnosed in the UK alone.
On one level, diagnosis is just a piece of paper, you know. It's just a label.
We will look into the lives of 3 individuals as they share their stories and experiences with the hidden condition. Autism is a spectrum condition. One of the points on the spectrum is Aspergers Syndrome. This affects 3 main areas: social communication, social interaction, and social imagination, often referred to as the triad of impairments. At the age of 27, Luke Matthews was diagnosed with Aspergers Syndrome. Currently, he receives regular support at home from Oliver, an outreach worker from a local organisation.
For me, being housebound is more about feeling in control, not feeling constant anxiety. A lot of the coping mechanisms I have are about bringing a controlled structure to interactions that I want to do, you know. And then it just becomes kind of chronic in the sense of once you kind of set down those boundaries and think, oh well, I'm kind of calm and not too anxious in my room, it becomes all like, well, I want something from the shop, but I think I'll maybe not bother, sort of thing.
Luke's time with Oliver is limited, so he lives with his mum and stepdad, who offer extra support when Oliver is not around.
Do you think he's fat?
He's always been fat. I'm not sure.
What do you think that sort of udder he seems to have now?
John's getting very concerned.
Well, I weighed him on the scales this morning, and I think he was 5 point. Luke was sort of going to go to university and then disappear, and of course he hasn't been able to do that. So I think, if I'm honest, and I wouldn't want to get heavy with Luke about this, I think there is an element of resentment in me. I think there is in a lot of carers that I didn't really reckon on this happening, and it has been quite emotionally difficult at times. I mean, we're still sort of, if you like, caring for him in a way that we would do with somebody considerably younger than that, and that feels a bit strange.
19-year-old Luke Hoggarth has also been diagnosed with Aspergers Syndrome. He currently lives in Bradford, where he attends university alongside having a part-time job.
I've been working here since about October last year, and I applied over the summer holidays before I came here, and I came for an interview and they just said I could do it.
Luke has been involved with the local members club and cafe alongside his dad since he was 15 years old.
I mean, at school I used to be bullied immensely, so, and the bullying services at school, quite frankly, were horrible. Didn't do any good whatsoever. The 1 in 12, you never had the problem with that at all. People just used to be really nice and accepting to you. And they used to have a laugh at you as well. And it was more accepting than any system that's considered formal was, like a school or a youth centre as such. The 1 in 12 was far more accepting than any of those places I went to.
It is common for those diagnosed with Asperger's to have a very focused interest on a specific subject.
So we can sort of separate Luke's life into various obsessions, and it became then into like, from dinosaurs into like Spider-Man, where he'd dress as Spider-Man, and he'd have a Spider-Man costume and he'd wear it all the time, and he thought he was Spider-Man. He thought he could jump off walls and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
and then it moved into Batman.
I used to get very obsessed with bands, and I'd have to find out all the songs by that band, the way they dressed, what they listened to, and I just try to find everything out about them as such, really.
The obsession is not just listening to the music, it's understanding the politics of the band, the members of the band, where they came from, you know, what, even to the point of what class they came from. You know, the obsessiveness of it is still there, but it's just because it's music, it's more acceptable to people.
Today, Luke Matthews is taking Oliver around Leeds Metropolitan University where he completed his Masters. It was during his time here that he noticed autistic traits in himself.
The MA I did at Leeds Met was an MA in screenwriting, and to be honest it was kind of the best 2 years of my life in the sense that I always say this, it was like being a full-time writer. You paid for the privilege, but in terms of what you're actually doing, you're just writing all the time and meeting people to talk about your writing and their writing. There's more interesting stuff to look down there, but this is a way to the screenwriting. But it's blocked off now. You can't go up there. You used to be able to go up there. I found A-levels harder than my BA or my MA because of the learning environment and because it was relatively loosely structured, but still big classes. And I just couldn't focus on the work really. And I failed a couple of my A-levels. I think I didn't do particularly well in my A-levels.
He began receiving support towards the end of his studies, even though he was not clinically diagnosed until a few months after he graduated.
Every module is kind of a group round table. You meet once a month, 6 people, sometimes more than that, sometimes less. But around 5 or 6 people, including the tutor. You discuss each other's work and offer constructive criticism and feedback. But I was taken out of that and given one-to-one tuition, which was kind of like, I had mixed feelings because I really, really enjoyed talking with other people about their work and getting their feedback. But in terms of how it was actually progressing my own work and how I was finding it from that kind of educational perspective, the one-to-one tuition was much more suited to my learning style. Just to have one person as a point of contact in terms of feedback for script development. I felt like I had made more progress in the 3 months of one-to-one tuition and the 9 months of group roundtables.
Melanie Smith was diagnosed aged 12 with Aspergers Syndrome. Like most on the spectrum, she receives regular support to help with structuring coursework.
Did you go in the mail?
No.
No. It gives you about the history of the village and everything. Universal value.
She is currently in the process of finishing her first year as an archaeology student at the University of Bradford.
We'll start off with lectures and they give us the backgrounds of all the archaeology stuff. And then sometimes we go on the day trips to get our assignments done. And then we do lab work to help us prepare for the field work that we're going to do.
It is quite common for those diagnosed with Asperger's to have reduced ability to read body language and facial expressions. Melanie started out her university life as a psychology student, but changed course because of this.
I wanted to do psychology because I wanted to help people with autism. But when it got to further on in the year, it got more emotional stuff. So when it was on about people in therapy and things, which you have to think of how you would feel.
Luke Hoggarth currently lives with 11 other people in student halls in Bradford.
Living on your own is it's a bit weird because you really have to look after yourself. There's no one else there really. For me, I just come from Brighouse, so I get to have my mum do my washing every week. If I had to stick to a routine with washing, I'd never get round to it. I'm just that sort of person that can't stick to that routine. So it's weird, really, because you don't have that helping hand when it comes to living on your own.
Today, he is revisiting where his friends used to squat and where he'd regularly stay when he was younger.
This was the squat that I first came to. My mate Tom, who I met from the 1 in 12 cafe, he brought me back here. It was his house at the time. And I met my friends there, who I have still to this day. And we lived, they had that for 3 years when I got there, and they had it for another year. And it was completely unused when they got it. Someone owned it and they just never did anything with it. And these people were homeless and had family problems. And so they brought them here. I met friends who accepted me for who I was and was interested in what I was interested in. And it made it so I could go somewhere every weekend, get away. Because high school, I hated high school and I coped with my sixth form. I didn't mind it, I enjoyed my lessons. But this, I always used to look forward to coming back to this every weekend. It looked a lot worse than what it is now. But, and we never had any eating or anything, but it was, the people there made it really.
That circle then with like an arrow on the top of it is the international squatting symbol. It's world renowned to be used for squats, and you have it on t-shirts and everything. And it's possible people live in here, because if you look just up there, there's actually no window in there. But it isn't smashed or anything like that. It's just no window at all. And the thing in squatting is, to squat, or how it used to be at least, you couldn't do criminal damage to squat, otherwise you get evicted straight away. So what people used to do is they just take the window out and replace it. Or if they broke anything, they just replace it straight away.
It's a common trait for people on the spectrum to struggle with making eye contact. When Melanie was 15, this got her into a situation she'd rather not have been in.
For what I can remember, I met some friends in the park. Well, I went with one friend and I met some others. And it was this park. And we somehow got to Judy Woods. And there were 3 girls swinging on like a wood tree thing, to swing. And they tried to get our attention, the boys' attention, should I say. And one of my friends looked at the girl, but I didn't look at him or give him eye contact or anything, and then they just said I was rude. And then they asked what school I went to and things. And from there they started hitting me and taking my shoes off me.
Although Melanie has overcome past events, she still prefers to partake in individual sports such as archery. She meets with the society on a weekly basis.
First we set up, which takes about 10-15 minutes. Then we do the arm warm-up, because you can injure your shoulders if you... And then we shoot for about an hour and a half. I like it because it's an individual sport, but then afterwards we all come together and the numbers make up the win.
Over the last 6 months, Luke Matthews has been working with Oliver towards creating a plan for a script editing business.
I mean, the business is basically building very specifically on the skills and activities that were the real kind of meat of my MA, really. Script analysis, working with writers, developing scripts. Scripts means screenplays in all forms, really. Potentially branching out into other forms, you know, prose, poetry, plays, radio plays, but primarily scripts, screenplays at the moment.
In order to develop his reviewing skills, Luke and Oliver regularly visit cinemas and museums. Oliver provides support and structure, which enables Luke to leave the house more often.
The whole argument there wasn't there, like, when as the English film industry converged with the American film industry.
All right.
Well, even that bit Michael Caine was saying, why can't we do that now? He was saying, like, there was a bunch of British films that got, you know, mainstream, major releases and were successful, even in America. Like Alfie was one. Yeah. Well, that was why he was on the documentary.
The support Oliver provides allows Luke to do this more often than he would on his own.
I've heard of them a lot from being involved with, you know, fabric. They're always mentioning stuff. I used to go to the cinema a lot, but without a kind of really strong structure, it just became so stressful that I was watching films at home. The Love Film subscription, basically, I took out kind of like one of the maximum Love Film subscriptions, just because like the process of getting to the cinema itself was so stressful. It kind of took a whole day, really. Took a whole day and kind of affected my sleeping afterwards to stress me out. So it just became that Love Film was kind of ideal for a while. You can look at a business like mine and say it's kind of a hobby in effect. It's the hard part is to turn it into a business. So if I can say in 5 years' time I am, you know, earning a living from my business, I have ideas to branch out from pure script editing as it exists now. But that really is the kind of core of it.
Luke Hoggarth's passion for music has led him to the student radio station, where he co-presents a weekly show.
When I was younger, I got obsessed with music at about when I was 13, and I progressed into punk rock when I was about 15, and reggae and ska, and there's just so many different types of music, and it's never ending what you can do with an instrument, really, and what sort of style of music you can do. And so
That's why radio appeals to me personally, because of the music side to it. At all.
Oh, wow.
No one else. You think of the music industry and people can bring in, and they couldn't find anyone to match his pitch. It's interaction without having to be in front of people, sort of thing, really. And so I think because it does that, there's a big side to that which can overcome barriers of social problems that people with ASC might face. And so that's why I think it would help people to get around those barriers, essentially.
Although we have looked into the high-functioning end of the spectrum, we have learnt that no two individuals are the same. Once you've met one person on the spectrum, you have only met one person.